on, everybody? It's Key Time coming back to talk about the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl from last night. Both of those games came down to the wire. Both of them came down to the last play. Now, I knew both of them was going to be a close game, but I really want to get into some defensive play calling that Alabama failed to do down the stretch, and some offensive play calling that Alabama failed to do down the stretch in the first game. Now, in the fourth quarter, Alabama was up under 4 minutes left. They were up 7 points, and it just seemed like it was a tight game throughout, but it seemed like everybody felt tight, even the fans in the stands. Hey, I was feeling a little bit nervous. I can admit that. But one of the biggest plays of the season on that 4th down and 2. What did the defensive coordinator call for Alabama? You have everybody else. You got everybody else covered up, but you let Blake Corum run out of the backfield and nobody accounted for him. J.J. McCarthy threw it to him 2-yard pass, and he took it for about 27 yards and into the red zone. What was that? What type of defensive call? What type of defensive set did Alabama call there? And it was many defensive lapses in the game for Alabama yesterday. It really was. And then, they had in the third quarter, basically in the third quarter, they had a good drive going together, and then all of a sudden, the center had problems snapping the ball to Milroe. 2 back-to-back plays. They had they didn't have snap infractions. He just had trouble snapping the ball the right way. The center had trouble snapping the ball the right way. But that was a drive killer. When you look at it, Alabama should have won this game by at least 10 points, if not more. They got Michigan. They got lucky because Milroe on that ball on the play before the snap, before the center snapped the ball. It was another fumble, and when Milroe got the ball, he ran. He was going to run, and then he ended up fumbling the ball. So it was like Alabama, they gave this game away because Michigan, top defense in college football. J.J. McCarthy, I said in my prediction video he would have to throw his way to a win. He did that. He was 17 of 27, 3 passing touchdowns, and no interceptions. So I give props to J.J. McCarthy. Jalen Milroe, he only had 116 yards passing. But that offense for Alabama was looking rough throughout most of the game. Throughout most of the game, they was looking rough. You got centers mishandling the snap. You got defensive players not lined up in the right sets. The whole defense leaving Blake Corum wide open on quite a few occasions in the game, I might add. And all of that, they still had a chance to win this game. Now, even though Michigan won, do I believe that they'll have a tough time with Washington? And I'm going to get into Washington later on in this video. Do I think that they'll have a tough time with Washington? some point. I mean, at times in the game they will. But as far as Alabama, this was this Alabama. This wasn't even their one of their strongest teams in recent years. Alabama, they wasn't a strong team this year. I mean, coming back from, you can look at from the South Florida game up until now, you can see that they have improved a lot. Now, that last play, I'm gonna get into that because it took me a while to wrap my head around that last play. And if anybody has looked at my if anybody has looked at my 60-second short video about Tommy Rees, go on my channel and look at it. But Tommy Rees, this goes out to you. Michigan called a timeout. Y'all called a timeout, and then after that play, you call a QB sneak on the 3-yard line, and you running it right into the teeth of the defense. Now, a play like that, you know what you should have called, Tommy Rees? Was a fade. A fade to the corner, and call it for, let's say, who was out there? Call it for Isaiah Bond. Call it for Isaiah Bond, because Jermaine Burton, he started cramping up so he wasn't out there. Throw a fade to Isaiah Bond or somebody else, and if you get it, great. If you don't, still great. At least you called a play that had a chance to make it to the end zone, but you ran Jalen Milroe, and he ran right into the teeth of the defense and didn't even get a sniff of the end zone. So, Tommy Rees, like I said last night, like I said in my video last night, Tommy Rees, you got some explaining to do. You might be in trouble when it comes to play calling when it comes to the start of next season. And I'm not even gonna say next season, but maybe even in spring camp. Spring camp, who knows? Who knows? Tommy Rees, he gonna have like a different. He gonna have to have a different playbook coming into spring training now. Coming into spring training. So that's all I got for Alabama. Now, Michigan. What I can say about Michigan is Jim Harbaugh, last 3 years you've been in this position, couldn't seal a deal. Even though you done had some tough moments at Michigan playing against Ohio State and all that. This was the game that your team in all phases rose to the occasion. Now, I've said that over the years. I've said Michigan is all hype, but Michigan, that defense is the number one defense for a reason, and they showed it yesterday. I mean, the defense, they had 5 sacks against Alabama yesterday, and on top of that, as far as total yards, Alabama only had 200 yards, 215 yards total yards. And Alabama still had a chance to win this game. Now, credit the Michigan defense. I see why before the game I'm gonna just say it. I was kind of disrespecting them a little bit because of who they played and saying that they ain't play no SEC team, no legit competition outside of Ohio State or Penn State. But yesterday showed me that the defense is about business. because it was a lot of third downs. It was a lot of fourth downs, and even on the last play, where the defense stepped up when it had to step up. J.J. McCarthy, props to you, my brother. I didn't think that you would be able to throw your way to a win over Alabama, but you did. Blake Corum, you had a decent game. Alabama kept you under 100 yards, but most of those yards you had was when it counted. Michigan's defense, stellar performance. And plus, to Jim Harbaugh, congratulations. You are going to Houston to play for the national championship. So, congratulations to Michigan. Now, that's all I got for the Rose Bowl. Now, for the All-State Sugar Bowl. One thing I can say, this was a bomb burner. This came down to the last play, just like the Rose Bowl did. But I gotta say something. Michael Penix Jr., this guy is the real deal. He had 430 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Quinn Ewers, he didn't have a bad game neither. But it's like it's like with the wide receivers that Washington have, they are so that they are clicking at the right time, and they've been clicking all season. I done seen a couple of Washington Husky games, and Penix, he know where this receiver's gonna be at, that receiver's gonna be at, where the tight end is gonna be at, where the running back in the backfield is going to be at. He knows where everybody on the field is going to be at, and it's hard to sack Michael Penix Jr. I mean, it seemed like when you see that even the rushing, even the Huskies running game was great. You had Penix Jr. He had he ran the ball 3 times for 31 yards. They bell cow back. Dylan Johnson ran it for 49 yards. But I mean, the passing game was hitting on all cylinders last night. They ain't run the ball much, and why would you need to run the ball? I mean, as a team, the Washington Huskies had over 100 yards rushing, to be exact, 102. Now, what I can say from Washington, that they have an explosive offense. As far as that defense, it's a little iffy. They playing Michigan in the championship game. I don't think that they gonna score 37 points on that Michigan defense. I sure don't think so. But from what I've seen from Washington throughout the season, it'll be a tight game, and it'll be a close game throughout, just like these two were. Now, on the other hand, Texas, you got to, as far as defense, you got to be better on defense, because there was a lot of third down situations for Texas defense where they failed to get off the field, and that's what hurt them. And on top of that, one thing I want to go back to on the Washington side of things is clock management, because Texas had a chance to win it very late in this game, but if the running back for Washington stays in bounds, you run off a potential another 40 seconds, and Texas don't even have a chance to go down the field and actually score a game-winning touchdown drive. So Washington, you got lucky, because that was a clock management miscue right there. As far as that running back, he should have stayed in bounds, ran the rest of the clock off. Well, not run the rest of the clock off, but if he stay in bounds, Texas, they only have, instead of having a minute and about 54 seconds left, Texas would have only had about maybe 54 to about 44 seconds left in the game, and none of that would have happened. But kudos to Washington. You playing in the national championship. Texas defense, you got to get better. And also the running game for Texas has got to get better. You only had, well, relatively, you had a decent game on the ground, but you were behind the chains so often, Texas really couldn't go to the running game. They only had 180 yards in the rushing game. And as far as, like I mentioned, the defense for Texas, I mean, they allowed, I would say, as far as third down defense for Texas, Washington was 9 for 11 on third down conversions last night. And that's what basically Texas lost the game, man. So kudos to Texas, Washington, Michigan, and Alabama for making it this far. Now, I'm going to save my prediction for Michigan and Washington later on this week sometime. I'm going to save it for another video. But now let's look to that game. You got an explosive offense and a top-notch defense. Something gotta give in this game. You have J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix. Who gonna win this game? It remains to be seen. You all will see that in my prediction video later on this week. And with that, those are my reactions for the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and remember, the key is always on time.